اصغر ہائے اصغر، اصغر ہائے اصغر، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، اصغر ہائے اصغر، اے شاہدی کے دلبر، اے روح قلب مادر، اے تشنہ کام مضطر، اے بے زبان اصغر، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، تشنہ لبی پہ تیری گریا ہے یہ خدائی، مظلومیت نے تیری انسانیت جگائی، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، سوکھے لبوں پہ تو نے جس دم زباں پھرائی، سر کو جھکا کے رویا دشمن کا ہر سپاہی، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، کیا منزلت ہے تیری شبیر خستہ تن نے، دفنا کے تیرا لاشا فرمایا پرمہن نے، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، شکوہ نہ کرنا اصغر، پانی نہیں میسر، آنسو بہا کے میں نے تربت کو کر دیا تر، اے 6 مہینے والے تجھ کو میرا سلام، اصغر ہائے اصغر، صلوات پر محمد و آل محمد۔
حسین آج ہے تنہا حبیب آ جاؤ، حسین آج ہے تنہا حبیب آ جاؤ، کڑا ہے وقت خدا را حبیب آ جاؤ، حسین آج ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ یہ کربلا ہے یہاں دوست کی ضرورت ہے، یہاں تو مجھ سے بھی پہلے تیری شہادت ہے، نہیں ہے کوئی ہمارا حبیب آ جاؤ۔ کڑا ہے وقت خدا را، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ حسین آج ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ تیری نگاہ میں اب کربلا کا مقتل ہے، حسینی فوج کی فہرست مکمل ہے ساتھ اب میرا کنبہ، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ کڑا ہے وقت خدا را، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ حسین آج ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ تمہیں حسین کے حق میں جہاد کرنا ہے، کیا تھا وعدہ جو بچپن میں یاد کرنا ہے، یہی ہے فرض تمہارا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ یہی ہے فرض تمہارا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ وطن سے دور ہوں، مجھ پر ہوئے ہیں ہائے غضب، میں حج کو عمر میں تبدیل کر چکا ہوں، اب بدل گیا ہے زمانہ، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ کڑا ہے وقت خدا را، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ حسین آج ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ محب حسین نے حسرت سے چار سو دیکھا، زمین کرب و بلا کو لہو لہو دیکھا، لکھا یہ آخری فقرہ، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ کڑا ہے وقت خدا را، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ حسین آج ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ۔ صلوات۔
Assalamu alaikum, Mu'mineen. As we enter the second half of the Ashra, from tomorrow we would again remind you that we are starting on time. Namaz is at 8:03 and it keeps inching less than, and a minute less each day. So please be here on time so we can start the Majlis proceedings at 8:30 by the latest. Maulana is reciting at another place. He has to leave early and we want to get the most benefit from him and at least have 40 minutes for him to speak with us. And with that, I will invite Maulana for his fourth lecture for the month of Muharram. Yes. For Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين صلى الله وسلم عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله وسلم عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضرا وما عملت من سوء تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا ويحذركم الله نفسه والله رؤوف بالعباد. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One of the ways that we intimately know and understand the position of the Prophet and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, including Sayyid al-Shuhada Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, is via the ziyarat. The ziyarat are in effect salutations that are read either in the presence of the Imam or from a distance. In the case of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, specifically, there are more ziyarat directed to him than any other Imam. Every Imam that came after encouraged the salutations of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Al-Imam al-Sadiq himself Al-Imam al-Sadiq himself has multiple ziyarat that are attributed to him. There are ziyarat that are even attributed to our 12th Imam, Al-Imam al-Hujjah, Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. And in a way, it became a way for us as the followers of Ahlul Bayt to intimately understand our relationship to him, his relationship to God, his relationship to the Ummah, and the place that he held in his descendants' hearts. One of those very, very powerful ziyarat is Ziyarat al-Arba'in. And in Ziyarat al-Arba'in, we read the following verse. وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيكَ لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ وَحِيرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ. Badala means to give up. He gave. وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيكَ. He gave his muhja to you, O Allah, so that he can save your people from jahala, ignorance, وَحِيرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ, and from going astray and being lost. But what did he give? What is the muhja in the Arabic language? The muhja, it's a very particular word only used in this ziyarah. It's the blood of the heart. The blood that comes from the heart is referred to as muhja. So when we give blood, where do you give blood from today when you go and donate blood? You give blood from your arm. Do you give blood directly from your heart? Even though the blood circulates through the heart, eventually all of it, but you don't put the needle here. You put it here. The Imam says he gave the blood directly from his heart so that he can save your ibad, your followers, your worshippers, your servants from jahala, from ignorance. Wahirat al-dalala. So Imam Hussein gave up something that was very, very dear to him. So what did he give it up for? Now we know that the Imam, he had a mission statement. He had a will that he left behind. And as we spoke about in the first or second night, that he made his intentions very, very clear what he was doing. I mean, it was not confusing for anyone. Now, some people were confused simply because they had no idea what was going on. They didn't know that what was taking place was actually taking place. But in terms of confusion as to why he would do such a thing, it was very, very clear. Because he made himself very clear. He was very eloquent in what he said. And he knew that death was approaching. That's why we mentioned yesterday when he stood in front of the people in the Hajj season, when he stood in front of the people on the day of Arafat, the first thing that he uttered from his mouth was death. خُطَّ الْمَوْتِ عَلَى وُلْدِ آدَمْ مَخَطَّ الْقِلَادَةِ عَلَى جِيدِ الْفَتَاةِ. He speaks about preparing yourself for death. So it was very clear. It wasn't shady in any way. But he gave his heart and the blood of his heart for freedom, for honor, and for dignity. And the freedom that he fought for, sometimes we think that, well, freedom in that context is just, fighting against the oppressor, fighting against a Yazid, and fighting against the Muawiyah and the descendants and the Banu Umayyah. However, if we say that that's where the only fight exists on that plane, then you won't always engage with that kind of struggle, because you can live in a democratic society. So if you live in a democratic society, that means that the message of Imam Hussein is not relevant? Think about it. If we lived in a democratic society, effectively, if we understood the struggle of Imam Hussein for freedom to mean freedom from dictators and tyrants, then in a democratic society, we would need no struggle at all, and his remembrance would be irrelevant, and we wouldn't need to have Muharram Majlis. But why do we have Muharram Majlis year after year? Because for many of us, the Yazid exists here inside. Muawiyah exists here on the inside. It's the one that you're fighting. So he gave his life for freedom. And what is freedom? The reason I bring this up is because sometimes we confuse freedom with being carefree. And being freedom and having freedom and pursuing freedom and being carefree are two polar opposites. They're not the same thing. I say this because I was watching a documentary one time, and there was a young man who had accepted the path of Ahlul Bayt, but he was living somewhat of a bizarre lifestyle. And when he was questioned about his lifestyle, his justification, he used the quote of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said that, Hussein fought for freedom. And if this faith is not about freedom, then I don't want anything to have to do with it. And I began to think, I said, if you don't read between the lines and you don't pay attention, it sort of makes sense. But if you think about it, freedom and what Imam Hussein laid his life down for is not the same as being carefree. Those are two different things. See, freedom carries with it the slogan of responsibility. Imam Hussein was a responsible person. He was very, very concerned about what took place in the Ummah. He didn't have to be concerned if he didn't want to, but he was very concerned. Being carefree carries with it the slogan of irresponsibility. And the slogan of carefree is do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anybody. And it's very, very important to distinguish between the two attitudes, because we can equate the former to the latter. And being carefree has nothing to do with pursuing freedom. Freedom comes with the height of responsibility. Being carefree is tantamount to being careless and irresponsible. And I want to focus on that slogan a little bit. Do whatever you want as long as you aren't hurting anybody, because sometimes you might get. Now, first of all, when it comes to that statement, do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anybody. Number one, who is to determine what hurt is? What hurts one person, or what doesn't hurt one person, may hurt another person. And number two, when we say as long as you don't hurt anybody, how do we know whether we are actually hurting or not hurting? The reason I bring this up is because as human beings, we tend to measure our actions by that which is seen, that which is heard, and that which is felt. But the Quran teaches us a valuable lesson. It teaches us that our actions and our deeds do not only reside in the realm of that which is seen, that which is felt, and that which is heard. In fact, our deeds, our actions, our sayings have more with the realm of the unseen than the seen. Alam al-ghayb. For instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It begins with Alif Lam Mim, and then the second verse is ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ. It is the book, the Quran, speaking of itself. La rayba fi. There's no doubt in it. There's no doubt that it's the word of God. There's no doubt that it has descended to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hudan lil muttaqeen. That it acts as a form of guidance for the muttaqeen, those who have taqwa. And generally, you know, we translate taqwa as piety, but taqwa is so much more than piety. Sometimes people translate taqwa as fear, but it's really not fear, and it goes beyond piety. Taqwa is to understand that there are boundaries that God has created for you, and when you're when you're anchored within those boundaries, that's taqwa. So muttaqeen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this book is a guidance for the muttaqeen, but then it also describes who the muttaqeen are. What is of the muttaqeen? Does it say pray, fast, hajj, zakat, khum, sadaqah? What's the number one? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. They believe in the unseen. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. So before they think of establishing the prayers, which is the pillar of our faith. One narration says, الصَّلَاةُ عَمُودُ الدِّينِ إِن قُبِلَتْ قُبِلَ مَا سِوَاهَا وَإِن رُدَّتْ رُدَّ مَا سِوَاهَا. That the prayer is a pillar of your faith. If it's accepted, everything else will be accepted. If it's not accepted, nothing else will be accepted. But before that, he says, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Those that believe in the unseen. Meaning that there's an entire world out there that is unseen. So when we go back to that notion, do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anyone, be carefree. Well, how do you know that your actions, maybe in the realm of the seen, and that which is seen, that which is felt, that which is heard, that which is felt immediately, that which gives the result immediately, it may seem apparent that there is no that there's no effect to it. But what about the realm of the unseen? You know, when it's interesting when you corroborate what this says with scientific findings. You know, scientists tell us, astrophysicists, they tell us that in our universe, what we're able to see, what is tangible in our universe, is only 3% of our known universe. So if you take the planets, if you take the stars, if you take all that mass, however many tons it is, I don't know, trillions, quadrillions of tons, it's only 3% of our known universe. They say the other 97%, this is going to make you feel really, really small and insignificant. But the other 97%, they say about 25% of it is dark matter, and about 73% is dark energy. And they call it dark because they still don't understand the nature of dark matter and dark energy. They don't know exactly what it is. They know what it does, They know that it has a gravitational pull to it. They know that dark energy is what is responsible for the expansion of the universe, because we know that the universe is expanding. And not only is it expanding, it's accelerating, meaning that the more it expands, the faster it expands. It's picking up ever since, you know, what they believe is the Big Bang or whatever originated our universe. It's expanding and it's accelerating. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ, that we built the skies and surely they are ever expanding. وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And so all of this out there in the universe, 97%, we don't even know what it is. It's something that we can't even begin to perceive and we understand some of the qualities. We understand that it has a certain effect, but we don't understand the true nature of it. So in essence, most of what's in this universe belongs to the realm of the seen or the unseen, the realm of the unseen. And that's why there's a particular stress on that عالم الغيب والشهادة الذين يؤمنون بالغيب, those that believe in the unseen. You know, when it comes to our actions, it's very interesting. Again, when you look at what science tells us, there's the law of conservation of energy, which tells us that you cannot create nor can you destroy energy. The energy that exists in the universe is there. You cannot create new energy and you cannot destroy energy. You know, you can manipulate energy. For instance, we consume calories, and calories are a unit of energy. When we talk, when we perform, when we act, we are burning calories, which is also burning energy, but you can never create any of it new, and you cannot destroy any of it. And sometimes we don't see the immediate effect behind what we say. So for instance, let's go back to that slogan again. Do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anyone. Well, I may say something and assume that what I say is not hurting anyone or it's not affecting anyone. But physically and on a molecular level, it does have an effect. I'll give you an example of that. Right now, the way that you're able to hear me, I'm the speaker, you're the listener, the way that you're able to hear me is by sound waves. When I speak, I produce sound waves. When it goes through a microphone, those get amplified, but they're sound waves. Sound waves are something that's physical. They exist. That's why if you go into a large open area or a room that is empty for the most part, you can hear an echo. What's the echo? The echo are those sound waves bouncing off of the wall. It's interesting, there was a study that was conducted many years ago, and they were describing how one of the technological advancements is they said pretty soon we'll be able to develop a camera or something that captures an image of the sound waves that exists in a room, and they're able to reverse it in a way where they can actually create an image, a picture of what happened, going back a week or going back 10 days or going back 6 months or going back a year. Because as you create these sound waves, they never get destroyed. They continue to exist, but they exist at such a low level that it's not part of the world that is seen, felt, and understood. But it's part of alam al-ghayb. It becomes part of the unseen, part of the unfelt. But that technology is based on the fact that you could actually capture what's going on and recreate an image. So they were talking about how it would be helpful, you know, when it comes to capturing criminals who have conducted a crime and they fled the scene. You can tell exactly what happened because there's still some sort of presence that's lurking, that exists, even though you as a human being cannot see it. So what you say to a person, even though you may think in your mind, well, I'm just saying it and it's not hurting anyone, in reality, it can hurt at a molecular level. There was a scientist, a Japanese scientist who had conducted a study. And what he did was he studied the effect of speech on water molecules. So the way that he did it was that he took water molecules, and the way that he was able to observe the activity of these water molecules was by freezing them. And he subjected different, whatever it was, cups of water, whatever the container was, he subject them to different noises. Some of them were positive and sounds. Some of them were positive, some of them were pleasant, and some of them were not so positive, they weren't so pleasant, they were very agitating. And so what he found was a stark difference between the two. That when he studied the molecules of the water that were subjected to pleasant noises, that the molecules were much more calm. However, when he studied the molecules that were subject to loud noises, he put, loud, annoying music, he found that the molecules were actually much more agitated. And so you think to yourself, well, that makes sense for us as a human being, because if you understand that at a molecular level, you will understand why they tell you to stay away from listening to certain types of music, why you should stay away from listening to backbiting, why you should stay away from listening to gossiping, because all of those things can affect you on a molecular level. You're made of water. 70% of you is made of liquids. And so what the scientist was saying was that you don't need to be a religious or philosophical person to understand this, to accept this. This is what my scientific studies have shown. And so you don't immediately see that, but under a microscope, by freezing the molecules, he was able to witness it. The point is that what we say and what we do does not disappear. It doesn't go in passing. Just because it transfers from something which is seen and felt to something that is no longer seen or felt does not mean that it disappears completely. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran in chapter number 3, يَوْمَ تَجِدُ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مُحْضَرًا وَمَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ سُوءٍ. That on that day, every nafs, every soul shall see present in front of it, muhdara. It shall see what it did, either good, positive, or bad, negative. And some of our scholars have understood those verses in the Holy Quran, and they have coupled them with narrations that we have from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And they say that your deeds, they never disappear. They change from one form to another, but they never disappear. Verses tell us that your deeds will appear in a different form in Alam al-Barzakh, which is the transitory world that we're a part of, when our souls pass from our bodies and wait to pass on into the next realm, into the Day of Judgment, the transitory phase known as Alam al-Barzakh, and on the Day of Judgment as well. That those deeds, they enter the grave. One of our narrations, it says that there are 6 things that enter the believer's grave with him. Number 1 is his prayer, salah. Number 2 is his sawm, his fasting. Number 3 is his hajj, his pilgrimage. Number 4 is his zakat, his almsgiving. Number 5 is his birr, meaning his benevolence and his virtuosity with people, being a virtuous person, generally being good towards people. And number 6, the last but not least, is walaya. Our walaya, our belief. And these things enter the grave with us, brothers and sisters. And they take a physical manifestation, the narration says. And every time there is to be punishment of the angels, and since they are 6 things, they protect from 6 different sides. From the front, from the back, from the 2 sides, from up and down. And so every time the angels have decreed that this person will be held accountable for a sin and he's going to be punished, these deeds, the narration says, they take a physical manifestation and they block the punishment. It acts as a shield, a warrior standing with a shield. So that tells us that the stronger those deeds mentioned are in this world, the stronger they are in the next world. So what scholars have said is that those same deeds, it's not that it becomes something new, but those very same deeds, that energy that you created through your deed, whether it was the prayer, because that required energy, or the fast, that required energy, or the hajj, that required energy, that same energy is there, it's just transformed into a different form. Now it becomes something completely different. It becomes a different manifestation. And the Quran reminds us of this as well. The Quran says, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين يأكلون أموال اليتامى ظلما إنهم في بطونهم نارا وسيصلون سعيرا. It addresses the people that they take the wealth of the orphans. And back then they didn't have the foster care system. They didn't have social security that would take care of orphans. If a child became an orphan, most of the time they were at the mercy of relatives. And so whatever they inherited sometimes was taken, confiscated from them and used by those people that were taking care of them. It's still a very, very prevalent issue today, by the way. If you go to Middle Eastern countries or countries where orphans don't have that level of protection like they do in the Western world. It says that those who engage in that kind of behavior, when they consume that wealth for themselves, إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا, they consume fire in their stomachs. وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا, also they will be punished by the fire. Two things. So there are two existences that are different from one another. It's not only that they're punished, but right now they're consuming fire in their stomachs. The only thing is that they can't feel that fire right now. There's a veil, a protection, where they cannot feel the burn in their stomach. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says on that day, يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرُ, and that all of these veils that were protecting our vision, that were protecting our eyesight, for whatever reason that we cannot see certain things in this world, on that day all of those veils are فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. We'll remove the ghita from their eyes. Their eyesight becomes sharp, 20/20 vision. And that's why narrations tell us that it describes the day of judgment, and when people receive their decree, there's no what do you call it in the court system when you appeal? There's no appeal. Here there's appeal because you think you can, sometimes you can get away with something, or you think that maybe the court system or the judge or the jury, they didn't see something properly, so you appeal it. But on that day, there's no more, because everything is so clear that a person understands that, no, this is what I deserved. This is what I got coming. The only difference is in this world, you cannot see it. It belongs to the realm of the unseen, alam al-ghayb, which is a prerequisite of our belief. Before our prayers, before our fast, before all of that, a prerequisite of our belief. So going back to that statement of you can do anything you want as long as you're not hurting anyone. Understand that yes, maybe apparently it looks like you're not hurting anyone, but when you look at alam al-ghayb, when you look at the unseen world, sometimes you'll be affecting the generations that come after you. One verse in the Holy Quran says the following. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. It says that those who believe and that their offspring, their children, they follow them to some extent, we will unite the offspring with them. And commentators say the following, that what this verse means is that if you do good and your children follow you, your children will be elevated to your rank even if they did not perform as well as you. Many people, many parents, their concern is, I was raised in a certain way, in a certain environment, in a certain background, in a certain culture where, our parents had our eyes on us. We didn't have social media. It was harder to do bad. But now I'm concerned about my children because they're raised in a completely different environment. Well, the Quran is teaching us that even if they follow you to a certain degree, even if you just teach them some of your principles, and that comes with responsibility and attaining freedom as well, not being carefree, but as long as they follow you in some of your principles, أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُم, we will elevate them. So even what you do, even if they don't perform as well, they will be elevated to your rank. They will be elevated to your status. And that tells us that what you do is so powerful that it spills over. It has a spillover effect. One of the most beautiful stories of the Quran is the story of the Prophet. They were able to record. So being in a position of leadership, and each and every one of us is in a position of leadership. Leadership doesn't necessarily mean you're a CEO or you're a boss or a president. Within your own family, you are a leader. A man must be a leader of his family. Even if you're not married, one day you will be a leader of your family. You will be a leader of your community. Most of all, you're a leader of yourself. So understanding that in any situation, somebody is watching. Somebody's watching you. Somebody's taking after your example. You know, one of the greatest examples of that was the life of the Prophet Yusuf ala nabina wa ala alayhi salam, because if you read the chapter in the Quran, no matter what situation Yusuf was in, he knew that God was watching. Whether he was in the depths of the well, or whether he was sitting on the throne of the highest minister, his attitude, his belief were consistent. Whether he was in the home of his father, or whether he was in the drudges of the jails, in which he spent many, many years, his attitude and his belief were consistent. He didn't act one way in prison, and then outside he acted another way. He didn't act one way in his father's home and acted another way with his brothers. He didn't act one way when he was a minister and in power, and another way when he was in the depths of the well. There's a narration, it teaches us some of the du'as that the Prophet Yusuf spoke when he was in the depth of the well. Some of the du'as that Yunus spoke when he was in the depth of the belly of the whale. وَذَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا فَظَنَّ أَن لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. He called out in the darkness, أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. La ilaha, there is no God except you. Subhanak, all majesty is to you. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Truly when I left in anger, I was one of the zalimin. I did evil to myself. I oppressed myself. So that consistent attitude, which really was materialized and impersonated best in the character of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That he understood that at every moment there was someone watching. In one of the most beautiful supplications, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says the following. He says, my Lord, he says, متى غبت حتى تحتاج إلى دليل يدل عليك. He said, when did you ever disappear so that you would need someone to actually look for you? Sometimes we say, I'm searching for God. Some people, they say, I'm going to go to, I don't know, Yosemite Park, I'm going to search for God. I'm going to go here, I'm going to search for God. Imam Hussein says, when did you ever disappear for me to want to search for you? You were always there. You were always present. I never needed a sign. Some people say, I just need a sign that God exists. Imam Hussein says, I never needed a sign because you never disappeared. You never disappeared in the first place. You were always present. And then he says, عَمِيَتْ عَيْنٌ لَا تَرَاكَ عَلَيْهَا رَقِيبًا. He says, blind is the eye that does not see you watching over it. That eye that does not recognize God watching over it is blind. Even if it can see physically, but inside it is blind. It's worth nothing. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he was a manifestation of that personal integrity and that character. And he carried it everywhere, whether he was the son of the commander of the faithful out in the battlefield, whether people were gathering around him, or whether people were after his life, or whether he was on the blood-stained sands of Karbala on his own. He was a model for leadership and personal integrity in the fight for freedom. Imam Hussein taught us that I would rather die as a free man than live as a slave. This life is not worth living if we are a slave, not just to other people, not just to material world, but if we are a slave to our own desire, if we're a slave to our own ego, then this life has no value in living. And because Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave that example, he was a shining light, that's why he had the best of companions. When you set that example, automatically people will follow you. Even if you don't want them to follow you, they will continue to follow you. One of the companions, and this is the night that we remember some of the companions, among them the prominent one, Habib ibn Madahir, but Imam Hussein alayhi salam turns to one of the companions, Joan, Mawla Abi Dhar al-Ghifari. Now some people refer to Joan as a slave. Joan was not a slave. Joan was a free man. He was prior a servant at the home of Abu Dhar, but when Abu Dhar passed away, he became a free man. So he was a free man who chose to follow the Ahlul Bayt completely by choice. He went to the home of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen after Abu Dhar, because Abu Dhar died during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, during the life of the third caliph. He stuck with Amir al-Mu'mineen. After Amir al-Mu'mineen, he went to the home of Al-Imam al-Hasan. After Al-Imam al-Hasan, he went to the home of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein alayhi salam has a conversation with Joan. He says, Joan, he says, أنت طلبتنا في عافية. You followed us and you stuck with us for well-being. He says, وَالْآنْ أَنْتَ حِلٌّ مِّن بَيْعَتِنَا. He says, you're free of our allegiance. Please don't feel obliged that you have to stick around. Just because you've been with us for this many years, I don't want you to feel that you have to stick around. Because what's going to happen, Imam describes to him what is going to happen. He says, I don't want you to feel compelled. I want you, if you feel that you have to leave and go pursue something else, go. You have no obligation to me whatsoever. Joan begins to cry. He says, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah. He says, at times of bliss and at times where our lives were not under threat, I would eat from your leftovers. He says, now, at a time of calamity, you think I'm going to abandon you? He says, I followed you out of my own decision and my own will. Why would I ever want to abandon you? When the true test is here, why would I ever want to abandon you? When everything is, see, that's when the true test is. When everything is going good, you're not tested for character. But when things go wrong, that's when you become tested for character. He says, I used to eat from your leftovers. I used to honor myself by eating from your leftovers. Now do you think I'm going to leave you alone? He says, I will not do that until my blood mixes with your blood. And this man was over 90 years old. He went out into the battlefield and fought bravely. People could not believe that a man of this age could fight with such ferocity. Until finally he was struck down. And when he was struck down, Imam Hussein alayhi salam ran towards him. We have two instances where the Imam placed his cheek on the cheek of the person in front of him. One was Ali al-Akbar, his own son, and the second was Joan Mawla Abi Dhar. He placed his cheek on his cheek as a sign of love, as a sign of loyalty. This was one companion. Another companion was Habib ibn Madahir, a man who was a true loyal companion of the Ahlul Bayt, one that followed them in all of their examples and all of their commands. Habib during those days finds himself in Kufa. As he is in Kufa, Imam Hussein and he says, how lucky is a man like me that the daughter of Fatima comes out to greet him. Imam Hussein placed him in charge of the right flank of the army. And eventually when his time came, he sent him out into the battlefield. As Habib ibn Madahir went out, an old man, very old in age, but went out furious, ferociousness, brave, valiant. He fought and fought and fought until finally he was struck down. When he was struck down, one of the companions, Muslim ibn Awsaja, he runs towards him. He says, Ya Habib, final moments of your life, you lived a long and blessed life. Is there anything that you leave behind as a will? Now is the time. Don't leave anything behind. Habib ibn Madahir turns to him, he points to Imam Hussein. He says, Alayka bihada. Protect him with everything that you have. Forget about what I want. Protect him with everything that you have. Another one of the companions was a young man by the name of Amr ibn Junad al-Ansari. Narrations tell us he was around 12 or 13 years old. But his father had just gone out into the battlefield and had given his life. When his father had given his life, the mother, she took the son. She realized that she had nothing else to live for. So she came, she sent him. She said, go seek permission from Abu Abdullah to go out into the battlefield. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam saw this boy, he began to weep. He said, turn back, my son. You have just lost your father. When he went back to his mother automatically, she took him by the hand, she brought him back. She said, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, I seek from you permission for my son to go out into the battlefield. He says to her, Amat Allah, dear lady, I cannot put you in a situation where you lose your husband and your son all in. She turns to him and she says, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, أتثكل أمك الزهراء بولدها ولا أثكل بولدي? Is it fair that your mother Az-Zahra loses her son and I cannot lose my son? Is this fair? Do you see this as a fair equation? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, once he heard the name of Fatima Az-Zahra, he gave the boy his blessings. He prepared him and he sent him out into the battlefield. The young boy went out into the battlefield, seeing the example that went before him. narrators say that he began reciting some verses of poetry. Amiri Husaynun wa ni'mal amir, sururu fu'ad al-bashir al-nadhir, aliyun fatimatun walidah, fahal ta'lamuna lahu min nadhir. He was saying, Hussein is my prince and he is the best of princes. His mother and father are Ali and Fatima. Do you know anyone who is like him? Do you know anyone whose mother and father is Fatima? And he went out into the battlefield. He fought very bravely until he was surrounded by the enemy. When he was struck down, his mother, it says, she ran out into the battlefield. She took whatever weapon she could. She ran out into the battlefield to defend her son. She fought against the enemy, and as she lay caressing the head of her son, one of the enemies comes and he strikes her upon her head. She falls right there and she becomes the first female to give her life for Imam Hussein. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.